That's definitely going to be a key for this defense because this is a very explosive offense in Oklahoma. They lead the NCAA Division I softball categories and pretty much anything offensive you can come up with. But we're going to get things going for a really nice day here in Wichita, and that's going to get things started at 6:04 with the first pitch. We've got 66 degrees and sunny. A very, very nice day compared to what was comparable back when this was originally scheduled early in April.
I don't think there could be a more perfect day for a top 25 matchup.
Got 1 ball and 1 strike now to Tiara Jennings. It's a freshman leading off things for the Sooners. She leads the team now with 62 hits and 13 of those being doubles, 2 categories that she is the leader on this squad. Fantastic right-handed freshman for the Sooners.
Jennings was just named one of the top 30 freshmen of the year, and we're going to have a few more that are on the field today that were added to that list too, but not just freshman of the year, but she's also a finalist for USA Player of the Year, so no doubt that she's one of the best players in the country.
And that ball is sent out to left field, and underneath it is Bailey Urbon for the Shockers, making that out number 1 for Bailey Lang on the mound.
This is such an explosive offense, and you know, from watching them throughout the year, that's the kind of swings, and she was off time right there, and luckily it stayed in the ballpark, but they're the type of offense that makes good pitchers look like batting practice in the first inning. They don't wait until the second or third time through. They make an impact right from the get-go. So if Lang can get out of this inning unscathed, that's going to be a really good way to set the tone for the game and be a big win.
Next up at the plate is Jocelyn Allo. She's a senior this year, batting .504, leading the Sooners and their explosive offense. Also leading them in the home runs and RBI category as well. 25 home runs, 68 runners batted in. Allo is from Hawaii. Came a long way to play softball for Gasso over at third base.
Allo's just a phenomenal hitter. She's just so dangerous, and arguably having one of the best offensive seasons of any player of all time. So I think if you're looking at this lineup, this is the one player you got to make sure that she's not the one that beats you. There's plenty of the people in the lineup that can, but you got to make somebody else beat you.
With that, she sends out a nice shot out to Bailey Nickerson in center field, the senior, making the diving play. You'll see this again in the replay. On her belly, makes the play, and of course on the transfer does lose the ball though, but that is in fact an out, and a big one for the Shockers. Out number 2 for Jocelyn Allo, send it back to the third base dugout.
That was a phenomenal catch, and that's so hard to make. That of all the diving plays that you can make in the outfield, that one straight on is the hardest one. There's no room for error, and that's just a phenomenal play by Nickerson.
Nickerson, another one of those seniors. There's 6 on this Shocker squad playing their very last game inside their home stadium here at Wilkins. Now at the plate is sophomore Kinsey Hansen on the right-hand side. Kinsey Hansen is the first baseman for the Sooners. She swings and misses at that off-speed pitch from Lang.
There's that changeup we were talking about. She can throw it in any count, and she's going to rely on that really, really heavily today. So it's going to be interesting to see how the Sooner hitters adjust to that. If it's something that they start to sit on later in the game, or if she can control that and place it well enough to keep them off balance.
That one in for a strike. Lang now ahead, 1-2.
And don't get me wrong, Bailey Lang is a phenomenal pitcher, and she has really, really great stuff, but this is the most dangerous offense in the country right now, so she has to make sure that every single pitch stays off the white of the plate. She's going to have to really, really locate well today.
That pitch just missed. It makes it deuces wild on the scoreboard. You got 2 balls, 2 strikes, and 2 outs. Nobody on. Bailey Lang looking to shut this Oklahoma Sooner lineup up and head back into the dugout and let her offense do a little work. Time is called. Going to do a reset here. While we do, we're going to mention one little fun fact now. about Kinsey Hansen, and that's that she only has 1 strikeout on the entire season. That's a phenomenal stat to have this late, as we are in May now. Oklahoma just has 1 more Big 12 series coming up. That's against Oklahoma State next weekend. And when you look at a stat like that, playing against opponents in the Big 12 and other opponents that this Oklahoma lineup has faced, 1 strikeout is a phenomenal stat to have for Kinsey as a sophomore. This ball is sent out to right field and foul.
To me, what makes that even more impressive is the fact that she's not a contact hitter. She does hit for a high average, but she has 15 home runs. So that is some big-time hacks where she's not swinging and missing very often. It makes it even more impressive.
Hansen with a .451 batting average. Definitely doing her share of hitting this year in just her 2nd year as a Sooner. That ball's inside off the hands and into foul territory. So Bailey Lang trying to work out of this one. She's got a 3-2 count with 2 outs. Again, nobody on for the Sooners. Looking to go down in order. The Shockers are playing some good defense so far in this first half of the inning. That one is high and fouled off the bat of Hansen. The last time that the Oklahoma Sooners played before tonight was actually back on the 27th, so a week ago, and that was a doubleheader against Baylor. They run-rolled the Bears in that 2nd game, 11-0 in 6 innings. 75% of the Sooner games have been won by 1 run roll. 30 of their 40 games have not reached 7 innings. That one is fouled off again. A nice little battle here between Hansen and Lang.
Yeah, 30 run rules out of 40 games. That's not really a stat that you want to come across as an opposing team. But I think for the Shockers, they've got to take it 1 inning at a time. You know, if you look statistically, if they come away with a 7-inning game, that's going to be better than what most teams have done against Oklahoma this year. But from talking, we know that they're out to win this game.
That's a ground ball over to Sydney McKinney for out number 3. The Shockers set them down 1-2-3. They'll be up to bat right after this. Shannon Sale, the right-handed pitcher, a senior for the Oklahoma Sooners. You can see there she's got 56 2/3 innings pitched, .74 ERA, so phenomenal. And alongside that is her 94 strikeouts. So again, brought to you by Capital Federal. That is your starting pitcher for the Oklahoma Sooners.
Shannon Sale is going to be the hardest thrower on this Oklahoma staff. She's going to throw between 66 and 68 miles per hour. She's got a screw, a curve, rise, and change.
Sydney McKinney here is on the left side of the plate for Wichita State. She leads many categories for WSU right now. Actually just recently set the new single season record for hits and has been talked about nationally for the things that she's done both defensively and offensively for the Shockers. Another stat that we talked about, we mentioned with Kinsey Hansen of the Sooners, that's the low number of strikeouts. You'll look at the same thing for Sydney McKinney, only 3 on the season. A fantastic first hitter for this lineup at Wichita State.
Yeah, with just 3 strikeouts on the season, she does a great job of setting the tone early, getting on base, and she might not necessarily be your typical leadoff because she is a little bit more aggressive. A lot of times with leadoffs, you'll see them going really deep into counts, but with Sydney McKinney, I've seen her go deep first or second pitch of the game multiple times. So she's got plus speed, but tons and tons of power too.
McKinney transferred to Wichita State from the University of Missouri, is only a sophomore this year, so lots of time left in this Shocker uniform, which is a big positive to her coaching staff and fellow teammates. By the way, Shockers are led by head coach Christy Bredbender down at third base in her 10th season. Just reached 600 wins a few weeks ago. And down over at first base, Presley Bell is the graduate assistant working with the pitchers. And then Elizabeth Economan is in her 4th season with Wichita State, working with the hitters here on the staff. That's a ground ball back to Sale, and an easy out over at first base for the first out of the game.
It's like a changeup by Sale. Got McKinney out on her toes a little bit, reaching, little check swing, easy play over to first.
So we saw 3 up, 3 down for the Shocker defense against this explosive offense, now having a 4th out in a row. And that would be Miss Sydney McKinney out over at first base. That's going to bring up the freshman Addison Barnard, having a fantastic freshman outing in a Shocker uniform. She swings it strike one from the arm of Sale.
Here you go, Addie. We got 3-0.
Barnard's another one of those freshmen that was announced as a finalist for Freshman of the Year. She's having a phenomenal season for Wichita State. Basically single-handedly rewriting the record books.
Barnard is from Beatrice, Nebraska. Again, just in her first year with Wichita State. And she's only one of 5 players in the entire country with 20 or more home runs this season, and you guessed it, 2 more of them are out there, and they're in Oklahoma uniforms. That one's a fly ball in the infield. That's going to be out number 2, recorded by the shortstop, Grace Lyons. And with 2 outs, that's going to bring up a senior. That's Madison Peregrine, also known as Butters. You'll hear us say most likely throughout this game. May as well be her first name when she's in uniform. She's going to stand on the right side of the plate. One of the girls on this team that's from Oklahoma. We got many Shockers who call Oklahoma home. Playing a big game against the best team in the country, number 1, the Oklahoma Sooners.
Peregrine's very seasoned veteran up at the plate. As a senior, she has started nearly every single game, if not every single game, of her career back behind the plate as a Shocker. So she has a lot of at-bats underneath her belt, great eye, and a lot of power.
So swing and a miss, so she is down in the count here to Sale. 1 ball, 2 strikes, 2 outs, nobody on. Peregrine, known as the home run queen here at Wichita State. She became Wichita State's all-time home run leader back on March 5th with her 40th career home runs, but now has 54 in her career. That one is sent up into the sky, but foul. Again, a 1-2 count for Madison Peregrine.
I think with COVID giving players another year of eligibility, you have to wonder, like, should there be an asterisk behind these career records that are being set? But she broke that so early in the season, it was inevitable. So she is kind of blasted through that record and is really making it her own.
She's going to send this one out to center field. That's Jada Coleman, the freshman for the Oklahoma Sooners. Again, 3 up, 3 down for a great defensive outing for the Sooners. We'll be right back. Also got some really important people out there. That's going to be our umpires for the game. We've got home plate umpire Brian Miller, first base umpire Bradley Eberhardt, and over at third base is Jerry Jones. We thank you guys for being out here today. It's a hard job being an umpire in really any sport, but they're doing a great job so far. 3 up, 3 down in the first inning for both defensive squads. This is going to start things off, though, with a hit. The first one of the game is going to be off the bat of Grace Lyons, sending that one out to center field for, again, the first hit of the ball game so far today.
It's a nice job by Lyons, just going right back up the middle. Hard hit ball. Not trying to do too much, but just getting on base and leading off this inning.
That marks the 50th hit for Grace Lyons on the year, the junior shortstop over at first base. That brings up the freshman Jada Coleman from the Colony, Texas. Squares around to bunt, but lets that one go.
Coleman's one of those, the last on our list that was also top 30 freshman of the year. This was a list that combines not just the freshmen from this year, but the freshmen from last year as well, because it was a COVID-shortened season. They didn't get to finish and award that.
It's going to be a bunt from Coleman, and out goes Butters, but she is safe over at first base. Very speedy down that first base line. Now Oklahoma threatening with runners at first and second, nobody out.
And that is a perfectly placed bunt by Coleman. There's not a whole lot you can do by that. She's got incredible speed, so corners have got to be crashing hard on that, but even then, there's not a whole lot of chance that you're going to get a player that's as fast as her out at first.
53rd hit of the season for Jada Coleman, just a freshman again. Phenomenal season so far in her first year with the Sooners. That's a hack down that left field line. That's going to be Lindsay Elam, senior center fielder, up to the plate. Again, top half of the second here. 2 hits in a row for the Oklahoma Sooners after going down 1-2-3 in the top half of the first. And Elam looking to do what she can do as a senior there with runners on first and second and nobody out. Squares around a bunt and lets that one go. Up high in the zone for ball 1.
Corner's crashing hard on that. You're going to see them probably scooting in a little bit to try to take that sacrifice bunt away and maybe get that lead runner out at third. Keep both of these runners from being in scoring position. We talked to Patty Gasso earlier this year, and she had a lot of great things to say about Elam. She's the captain on the team and probably their biggest leader. She said she has a calming yet firm voice and is kind of the overseer of the team. That's kind of what you want out of your catcher.
That one's in the dirt. Sending it over is Butters to third base to Riley Buck, but that's going to be a safe call down there for Grace Lyons at third base. Jada Coleman, though, over at first, did stay put on the play. Keep an eye on her, though. She's 16 for 18 on her stolen base attempts this year. So with a first and third situation, nobody out, the Sooners really threatening here. That one is sent high. Shockers are looking for it. Sid McKinney with her back turn makes a nice grab at shortstop out in the outfield. Huge out for Sid McKinney and the Shockers.
That is not an easy play to make at all. That ball hung up in the air for a really long time, and you can see there's no one else around there. They were playing pretty deep, and Sid just went out there and did it herself.
So Elam goes back to the Sooner dugout for out number 1, but that's going to bring up Nicole Mendez, the lefty right fielder, also a senior in this lineup. Looking to do some damage here as there's 1 out, runners at first and second. Again, the dangerous Jada Coleman over at first base, with the base open at second calling her name. Squares around a bunt, there goes Coleman. And she stands up with the stolen base over at second.
Good decision by Paragon behind the plate. With that kind of speed, you're probably not going to get Coleman anyways. So a little pump fake and hold that runner at third.
Nicole Mendez has a .385 batting average on the season. Now ahead in this count, 2-0 against the lefty Lang.
You can see the infield's in a little bit, anticipating a ball on the ground. They're going to try to make that play at home.
And the pitch is off speed and sent over to foul territory. Now a 2-1 count against Mendez. Again, a .385 hitter. Also very low in the strikeout columns, only 7 times this year. So someone who's trying to put that ball in play, get something going, a senior that knows what it takes.
She's been in a few big games in her career. I think at this point, when you've played this many games in as many situations, you look at something like this and it probably doesn't even faze her at this point anymore.
Coach Gasso really talked about that, gave a lot of credit to her assistant coach that works with the hitters, as JT Gasso, on really coming up with those mental mindsets as a hitter and kind of coming up with ways to face something before you actually face it in a game. And that's going to be a walk to Nicole Mendez. She's down over at first base. That's going to be her 12th walk on the season. Bailey Lang now with the bases loaded. Shockers looking to do whatever they can to get the ball down to home plate and keep these really dangerous Sooners from scoring the first run of the game.
Coach Gasso mentioned that they've focused a lot on the little things when it comes to their swings, and maybe more so on the mental part. They've really focused on breathing and how each body part kind of responds under pressure and within the swing, rather than just grabbing a bat and getting cuts in. They've really dove deep into the mechanics.
That's ball 1 to the senior, Jana Johns. right-handed player over at third base for the Sooners. Again, a senior in this lineup, hitting .338 on the season. Standing in with 1 out, bases loaded. And that one comes in tight. A stat that you'll notice on Jana Johns is that she's been hit by a pitch 14 times. She leads the Sooners with the hit by pitch column, coming from Calhoun, Georgia. Looking to do anything it takes to get on base and get that first run on the board.
See Bailey Lang working back into the strike zone after a few misses out of the zone. Needs to settle back in and get another strike under her belt.
2-1 pitch is high and over the head of Johns. A nice pickup for Madison Paragon behind home plate.
Maybe a little bit of nerves right there in that pitch. This is one of the biggest crowds that they've played in, probably the biggest crowd they've played in front of all season.
And that's ball 4. That's going to bring in a run for the Oklahoma Sooners, who strike first. Now leading this one 1-0. 1 out, bases remain loaded for the Sooners.
And that's the kind of pressure that gets put on a pitcher with a lineup like this. When you know at any point that the ball can leave the yard, and especially with this many runners on, it's not a surprise that you can kind of see those jitters get into Bailey Lang a little bit.
You can see head coach Christy Bredbender pulls the entire infield in, have a discussion. As you mentioned, Nicole, just get them back on track here. The Sooners are known for having really big innings when they have scoring happen. They really like to kind of lead into one big thing after the other. So I'm sure this is an opportunity to take a breath and get Bailey Lang kind of back on track in her 25th start of this year.
With an offense like this, you know they're going to score. I mean, the times that they've been shut out, I'm not even sure that they have this season. So it's important that they don't let things snowball and just be able to let them get a run or two and then get a stop and get back out there. And with as potent as the Wichita State offense is, you know that you can afford that.
That brings up to the plate Mackenzie Dunahu. She is in the 9 hole for the Sooners, a sophomore hitting .458. Nice looking average for that 9 hole spot. She has the bases loaded and only 1 out.
And again, you can see Lang falling behind in the count, especially with the 9 hole in the situation. You just want to go right at her. Make the defense work. Give her something that she can put into play.
And that one catches the corner. It's now a 2-1 count to Donahue.
On the flip side, if I'm Donahue, I'm making sure that she's going to give me a good pitch. She's been a little bit all over the zone, so I've probably picked out a specific spot. And especially with three strikes now, or 3 balls now, I'm going to make sure it's right where I want it.
Bailey Lang only 49 walks on the season, so not a ton. Definitely somebody who has a lot of control, just trying to get back on track here against the Sooner lineup. Brings that one inside, and that goes over to Kaylee Hecker at second, and if she bobbles it, goes over behind first base. She's coming home with the out. And the Sooners now find themselves in a rundown down at second base. Wichita State keeping a peek over at third base. The Sooners continue this rundown. This is going to be interesting. She's looking for it, and she is safe under the tag down at second. So the entire situation going into this is really in the Sooner favor, now leading this one 3-0.
So you see a great effort by Kaylee Hecker, but the ball just sneaks right out of her glove, and she can't quite come up with it. Runner coming around third base doesn't hesitate at all, and easily. And then right here, I think just a little bit of nerves in that situation. Few too many throws. There was a lot of throws in that rundown, and they're lucky that it didn't result in another run.
That one sent up into the air, into foul territory. We're now back at the top of the lineup for Tiare Jennings. Again, only one out still for this defense. Oklahoma really busting it open. 3-0 against the Shockers. Runner at second and third. Last time we saw Jennings at the plate, she was an out. She flied out to the outfield. So she is 0 for 1 today, now with a 1-1 count against Lang.
And I think this situation right here is going to be really telling for the rest of the game. If they can get it out of this inning without too much more damage, there's still an opportunity to come back. The Sooners have a history of having some really, really big innings. So the Shockers are going to minimize that as much as they can and try to come out of this and leave some runners on base.
The 1-2 pitch is hit. Looks like mid-outfield, and it's going to land right in front of Addison Barnard. And that's going to bring in another run for the Sooners. And that's Jana Johns crossing the plate for run number 4.
You can see Lang jams up Jennings just a little bit, but there's not too bad of a pitch, and that's just one of those kind of bad luck, happens to just fall in. Not a whole lot you can do there as a defender or a pitcher.
Jocelyn Allo steps into the plate for the second time tonight. She was also recorded out earlier, so 0 for 1 today. This one's in the dirt from Lang. Again, Shockers only have one out. Runners on first and third for the dangerous Allo, who again leads the Sooner offense with that .504 batting average. So somebody who's been very, very successful, has a very high slugging percentage, hits the ball hard, has lots of RBIs. Shockers looking to shut her down here.
Yeah, Allo's homered in 23 out of OU's 40 games. So you're looking to keep her in the park, obviously, but not only that, but she's reached base 52 out of the last 53 games. So she's just incredibly consistent, and she's going to be really, really tough out.
Got one in for strike 2. Bailey Lang back on top here. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Got Jennings down at first base. Donahue over at third base for the Sooners. That one is high in the zone and popped up over to the left side of the field. Riley Buck, the third baseman, looking to make an attempt, but that one is foul and out of play.
Nice job of Lang getting ahead in this at-bat, and that's something that she hasn't been able to do earlier in this inning. So now she's got a little bit of room to play, try to get something off the plate that will get Allo chasing.
1-2 pitch comes in, and that's strike 3. A nice off-speed pitch from Bailey Lang to get the very dangerous Jocelyn Allo by strikeout.
It's a great change-up here, just pulls the string and gets Allo out on her front foot, chasing that.
123rd strikeout of the season for Bailey Lang. Again, a 19-5 record overall, someone who has pitched a lot of innings for Wichita State, been very, very successful, showing her stuff there against a very dangerous hitter. Bring it to the plate now is Kinsey Hansen in her second at bat. Last time had a ground ball over to shortstop. Sydney McKinney recording the out back in the first. That one just misses, so a 2-0 count. Now against Hansen again, remembering that we have 2 outs here. Runners at first and third, that's Jennings and Donahue still. Bailey Lang looking to finish this one up and get back into the dugout and see what her offense can do to respond. That's an off-speed pitch for strike 1.
I think we'll probably see a little bit of movement on the base paths here in this first and third situation. It's a good count to run on, and we'll have to see what the Wichita State defense has to respond with.
That one inside for third ball of the at-bat. Now a 3-1 count. Jennings over at first base is 1 for 1 on her stolen base attempts of the season. Donahue is 5 for 5, so we know she's got speed over at third base. The pitch is in and sent out to right field. Addison Barnett on a horse, but that one's going to be out of play. But now a 3-2 count between Lang and Hansen.
Now we'll see those runners going.
Runners moving on a 3-2 count. Classic softball. Two outs here. This is a big pitch for Bailey Lang. And it's low, but it's going to be chopped over to Sydney McKinney, and she's going to record the out. So Wichita State gave up lots of runs, 4-0 lead for the Sooners, and we'll see Wichita State up to bat after this. Welcome back to Wichita. Oklahoma really busted it open in that second half, or first half of the second inning, and that's the 4-0 lead that you see there. So the first inning here, if you're just joining us, was 3 up, 3 down for both offenses, and Oklahoma put a stop to that and now leads this one by 4. Going into the bottom half of the second inning, starting things off is the number 4 hitter in this lineup for Wichita State. That's Neely Herring. And she takes strike 1 off the arm of Shannon Sale.
Herring has been really hot lately. She had the game-winning go-ahead home run a week ago against Oklahoma State, and she had a really good showing against Tulsa this last weekend.
She takes that one up for ball 1. When you look at the lineup for Wichita State, you got several that call Oklahoma home, as we talked about earlier in the game. Neely Herring, one of those. 7 Shockers from the state of Oklahoma. Neely Herring sends this one out to right field and makes it to first base for the first hit for Wichita State in this game, and a nice little bounce back offensively in response to the big inning that Oklahoma just finished up.
And that's what you want to see out of your offense right there. You go up and give up 4 runs, then turn around and that first at bat say, you can't count us out, we're going to fight. And that's what I love out of Neely Herring. Regardless of the situation, she's going to get everything she has, and she's going to fight.
The 48th hit of the season for Neely Herring, the junior. Just does a phenomenal job against Oklahoma teams. She was a really big deal against the second win of the year versus the Oklahoma State lineup that was here not too long ago. Wichita State pulling out their second win against a ranked opponent in Oklahoma State, and she had that go-ahead home run in the 6th inning that really lit things up for the offense. Bailey Nickerson stepping in. The senior outfielder for Wichita State has a 2-0 count. And that sends the catcher Elam out to talk to her pitcher Sale.
You see, for the Sooners, Elam and Hansen split some time back behind the plate. But Elam, that senior leader, going out to calm her pitcher down.
And it looks like it worked, because that's strike 1 against Nickerson. 2-1 count, nobody out, but Neely Herring standing over at first base.
Nickerson has some really good potential for some power.
Sends this one over to the shortstop, and that's going to be out number 1 over at second, and a double play for the Sooners.
Nice job by the middles there, making it look routine. Hard hit ball, so they've got plenty of time to work with, and that's a pretty easy double play right there.
Nice play by Grace Lyons, the shortstop. We'll bring up Riley Buck, a senior from Wellington, Kansas, stepping to the plate now with 2 outs, nobody on. So a little different look than they had just a batter ago. Buck, a .287 hitter this year. Sending this one into the air. That's out to right field, and you can see Mendez under it for out number 3. The Shockers go down quietly, and that's going to be the 3rd out of the inning. So here come the Sooners right after this. There you see head coach Patty Gasso, number 1 team in the country of the Oklahoma Sooners. She has a phenomenal record here at OU, 1,319 wins to 338 losses in her 27th year. with the Sooners, doing a fantastic job yet again this year in 2021.
She is one of the best, if not the best. Lots of big wins under her belt.
Stepping up to start things off here in the top of the third is Grace Lyons, the shortstop for the Sooners. Hits this one down into that hole, and you see Sydney McKinney making the diving stop. Nice effort, but safe over at first is Lyons.
Great effort by Sydney McKinney, but something that's going to take you that deep in the hole. If you've got any kind of speed, you're usually going to beat that out, but nonetheless, great effort on her part.
So Lyons now on base for the second time of the day. Is going to bring up Jada Coleman, the freshman center fielder for the Sooners on that left side of the plate, taking ball one.
Corners are going to be on their toes here. She, last time up, dropped that little sacrifice bunt that she was able to beat out. So if I'm Christy Bredbetter, I'm pulling those corners in and saying that's not going to happen again.
Sends this one on the ground over to Riley Buck at third base, but foul. Coleman is 1 for 1 on the day, as mentioned. 494 or 495 batting average now.
Coach Gazzo had plenty of great things to say about her, but she just said that she is the most athletic player that she's probably ever coached. She has the ability to just change the game with her athleticism and all of her different tools.
Coleman attempts the bunt again, sends this one straight back. Strike two. So 1-2 count, laying ahead with Grace Lyons standing over at first base. Bailey Lang sends that one in. Nice pitch on the quarter, and Coleman fights it off, sending it foul.
It's a great job by Coleman just spoiling. And that's something you usually see out of a junior, or set a lot more at bats under their belt, but she looks like a seasoned veteran in the box right there.
The 1-2 pitch misses. Inside and low. That's a 2-2 count now. Nobody out. Lyons standing over at first base for the Sooners. OU has just one loss on the season, back on April 20th at Georgia. They lost it in 9 innings, the longest game they've had this year. That ball is sent down the left field line, but foul as well. So Georgia, back on the 20th of April, did break a 40-game win streak that OU had going. We talked about what OU had just finished up. They just played against Baylor a week ago. Still undefeated in Big 12 play with the Oklahoma State lineup. Next on their list, they'll be traveling out to Stillwater as their final opponent for May 7th to the 9th. They have won 66 consecutive Big 12 games going into that. This one close, but called a ball. Now a full 2 count, 3-2 count, full count to Jada Coleman.
You can hear the Wichita State fans wanted that one. You talked about that streak, and I just think you wonder, you know, is it a good thing that maybe they lost throughout the season? Because sometimes that undefeated mark can kind of be a monkey on your back, and you start to worry more about the streak than you do just going out and taking care of business. And after that loss, Coach Gasso, she just said we're not good enough, and talked about how much they need to get better. And she said the team agrees that they need to get better, and thought that it's just something that they could really learn from. And I think it's a great approach. Instead of being disappointed, just realizing this is something we've got to do to continue to get better and reach our goals.
It's amazing to hear a coach of a #1 program that's doing things that this team's doing say they need to get better. That's
hard to believe when you look at these numbers.
Really is. Stepping up to the plate now, Elam. She's going to send this one over to Sydney McKinney. She catches it in the air for the double play to Kaylee Hecker, and that's going to send Lyons back to the dugout as well. A big double play for Wichita State.
And that's huge for them to try to get out of this inning. Little trip up there, but good job by Kaylee Hecker to no hesitation be there to cover that bag.
The defense of Wichita State has absolutely been something to talk about as well. We talk a lot about their offense because it's truly been record-breaking this year, but this defense has saved them in games. OU, obviously a team that you don't want to have multiple players out on the bases, and they just set them all down. Now another one down to second base on the stolen base attempt. And Coleman is going to be safe. That's 18 for 20 now on the season for Coleman.
She just has great speed. I mean, that was a really good transfer by Paragon behind the plate, and that throw was on the money, and it wasn't even close. So it's going to take a really, really strong arm to be able to throw her out on the base paths.
Up at the plate now is Nicole Mendez. 2 outs. Coleman down at second base. Mendez walked in the second inning, so she is ready for her first at bat to be registered here. OU hoping it's a hit.
Just keep talking about Coleman's speed. You can see her getting a huge lead at second base, so it's not going to take a whole lot here to score her. She is really aggressive off of the bag, and just something that squeaks through the infield is going to score her.
The 1-2 pitch from Lang is fouled off down the right field side toward first base. Again, these two teams last met on March 4th of 2020, just before things shut down in the pandemic. They were in Norman. OU came out with an 8-5 victory, but Wichita State was ahead in that game, 4-0, and ended up losing that one down in Oklahoma. That's a ball in the dirt, and here comes Jada Coleman to third, and this time she is thrown out by Madison Paragon. Huge out for the Shockers, and coming up to bat next after a nice little outing on defense. And actually is the second highest winningest coach, and that's behind, guess who? Tim Walton from Florida. So nice company to be keeping. 2 fantastic coaches, just 32 wins away from becoming Wichita State's all-time wins leader as a head coach.
Yeah, she's done a fantastic job with this program, and it's just been so exciting to see the growth and just especially this year to see that hype around this team.
Cameron Compton, the freshman, sending that one into the outfield, but over is the second baseman Jennings for out number 1. If you're just joining us, it was quiet up until the first part of the second inning, so not too long into this one, with Oklahoma really busting it open offensively, scoring 4 runs on 5 hits against Wichita State. Now leading this one 4-0 as Kaylee Hecker steps in for her first at-bat of the day. Hecker is a senior second baseman for Wichita State, really known for her glove, fantastic defensive player, but has really stepped it up offensively for the Shockers.
She has come on as one of their most consistent hitters this year, and what I love about her swing is she's not trying to swing for the fences. She just worries about getting the barrel to the ball, and then good things happen, and she's come through in a lot of clutch situations this year.
Hecker swings and misses at that one. 1-2 count.
And she's somebody that actually used, like you said, kind of a defensive specialist, and she would actually be using the flex position a lot. So she would get hit for in games. And so to see her kind of develop into the hitter that she is this year, you know, it has to be really exciting for her.
Hitting is contagious, as they say in the sport of softball and baseball. You can just kind of see this lineup light up, and Kaylee Hecker just jumped right on board with that, has done stellar things just last weekend in Tulsa in their final American Conference series, doing great things, being one of the most clutch hitters in the series, hit 2 home runs over the weekend. And we talked a lot about head coach Christy Bredbender. You really got to put a lot of credit over to the the assistant coach that works with the hitters. That's Elizabeth Economan, again in her 4th season. Talked about record-breaking year offensively. Wichita State has done just that. They hold the single-season record in RBIs, runs scored, total bases, home runs, hits, you name it. They are successful at the plate.
And you can just tell there's this whole new air of confidence about them that maybe there hasn't been in the past few years. And they've always been a strong hitting team, but this has just been taken to a whole new level. They've really embraced watching film and trusting scouting reports. They do a lot of research on who they're going to face, and they just go in prepared. And it's like studying for a test. If you can prepare and study ahead of time, you're going to go in with a lot more confidence, and that's something that they've really embraced.
Kaylee Hecker having a nice at bat here. Worked it all the way to a 3-2 count from Shannon Sale. Sale so far today only giving up 1 hit in 2 1/3 inning. And that one is high, and that's going to be the first walk of the game for Wichita State. Kaylee Hecker down to first base, giving a little bit of momentum here with only 1 out for the Shockers.
And that's not something you're going to see out of this OU team a lot. They're averaging less than 2 walks a game. So for the Shockers, they're going to want to be aggressive, but at the same time, you can see her really work that count and find a way on base.
Bailey Urban stepping in, swinging at the first one she sees. Urban, a freshman, playing out in left field for the Shockers. She is from Omaha, Nebraska. Not too far from home, but excited to wear that Shocker uniform for the first time this year.
Well, curveball from Sale there. She's got some really great spin on that pitch, and you can see it just kind of cut across the plate away to these right-handed hitters. Urban wanted that one, but was able to hold back.
That one out of the zone as well. So a 2-1 count for Bailey Urban, who is a .220 batting average on the year. She has 3 home runs, 14 RBIs. She had a home run in the series against Tulsa as well last weekend. Wichita State wrapped up their American Athletic Conference regular season. They'll have a bye next weekend. Strike 2 on Urban, so a 2-2 count. WSU, this team in 2021 is the first team in the American Athletic Conference to win 18 conference games in a season. So again, continuing that record-breaking theme that we keep talking about with the Shockers. That's just another way that they have really spiced things up in the American Conference this year. Urban sends this one into the air. It's in foul territory, and over is the first baseman for out number 2. That's Hansen making the out for the Sooners. Back to the top of the lineup, Sydney McKinney now stepping in for Wichita State. McKinney was a ground ball back to the pitcher Sale in the first inning. So she is 0 for 1 today and 0 for 1 in the count here. 1 strike, 2 outs. Kaylee Hecker over at first base. McKinney takes a second strike, now way behind in the count. Sale way ahead, 0-2.
Kenny finds herself in a tough spot. She's going to have to fight off some pitches. Only 3 strikeouts on the season, so you can't count her out quite yet.
That one out of the zone, but fought off by the shortstop McKinney, who ranks 2nd in the NCAA in hits with 76. She had a career-long 14-game hit streak snapped in the final game at Tulsa on Sunday, and she's had 2 hitting streaks of 11 straight games or more this season. So very, very consistent hitter for this Shocker lineup.
She has a great presence at the plate and just does a really good job of getting the bat on the ball. you know, sometimes she kind of has like a little check swing, maybe not your traditional just um, flawless swing, but she just finds a way to get on base. No matter what way it is, um, she's just going to make sure that she gets the bat on the ball. And that speed doesn't hurt anything either.
So an 0-2 count now for Sydney McKinney. 2 outs for the Oklahoma Sooners. That one is low, misses the zone. Kaylee Hecker down to second base with the stolen base. Her first of the season, coming in against the #1 ranked Oklahoma Sooners.
And that's not something you see out of Kaylee Hecker very often, and I think you could see there, the little double pump from Elam kind of caught her off guard too. And now she finds herself in scoring position.
Big at bat here for Sydney McKinney. Sail ahead, 1-2 count, 2 outs. And this one is sent back to the pitcher yet again. Ground ball, and that'll end the inning for Wichita State, playing host to the #1 team in the nation. That's the Oklahoma Sooners. A true David and Goliath story here. The number 25 ranked team, Wichita State, at the bottom of the rankings, hosting the #1 team at the top of the rankings, Oklahoma. So a good game between two fantastic teams having great 2021 seasons. Oklahoma leading this one 4-0 here in the top of the 4th.
It's a little bit unusual for both of these teams with their powerful offenses to make it this long in the game without seeing a long ball. It's a little bit different than what we were expecting today.
These two offenses currently lead the NCAA in home runs.
I think you have to credit both of these starting pitchers. They've done a nice job of keeping the ball off of the heart of the plate.
Nicole Mendez stepping in here. She walked back in the second. And she did eventually come around to score one of those 4 runs for Oklahoma in that inning. Now a 2-2 count. Bailey Lang doing her best not to give up another big inning. We know OU is definitely known for those big innings, a very explosive offense. Trying to start things off here with the bottom half of the lineup in Mendez. This time, though, it's going to be a hit down the right field line. Addie Barnard over to get it, sends it to Kaylee Hecker, but not in time. That's going to be a double for Nicole Mendez.
That's a well-placed ball by Mendez, and you can tell as she's rounding first, she doesn't hesitate at all. She knows her speed well, and even though Barnard did a nice job of cutting off that ball, the angle was just a little bit too hard of a throw to make, and she's in pretty easily at second.
Mendez's 4th double of the season. The senior now down at second base, nobody out. Led things off with that double, and this time it's going to be another one up the middle. Kaylee Hecker with a nice 1-foot throw over to get Johns at first base. You'll see this in the replay, Nicole. A nice little play from that middle infielder, Kaylee Hecker.
And she's so good with her backhand. I mean, we see her make that play all the time. She just makes it look effortless. But that's a really hard play to make, thrown across her body like that. But she does a good job of keeping the runner at third.
That did send Mendez down over to third base. The senior standing there with 1 out. Donahue up to the plate, 1 for 1 tonight. She also has 2 RBIs, so 4 runs. Half of those you can credit to Donahue up to the plate. Now standing with a 2-0 count.
I think you really have to say that Bailey Lang has done a nice job. Falling behind in the count in that second inning with a walk and maybe an untimely miscue at second base, but honestly, she has hardly given up a hard hit ball yet. And I think if she can just continue to keep the ball on the infield and keep these Sooner hitters off balance, they've got a chance to stay in this game.
Donahue takes the ball low. 3-1 count now. Donahue has 12 walks on the season, so does have a really good eye. The bottom part of this lineup. This would then bring up the very top of the lineup in Jennings, who's waiting on deck.
Perrigan behind the plate knows Donahue well. They're former high school teammates. Talk about that Oklahoma connection with some of these Shockers. Between travel ball and high school ball, they know each other pretty well.
That one just misses and sends Donahue down to first base with the walk, her 13th of the season.
To be honest, Jamie, I'm not sure where that one missed. Looks like a pretty good pitch. This has been a pretty tight zone, I would say, throughout this game, which again is even more impressive that these pitchers are having to battle a little bit tighter zone with offenses like this, and it's surprising that we haven't seen somebody kind of break it open yet.
Shows how important that changeup is. Bailey Lang really pulling the string on quite a bit of her pitches and been very successful with that change of speed because she is having to put it in the zone so much. A ball sent into the outfield on the stolen base attempt, and that's going to bring in another run for the Sooners. Mendez scoring on the play.
That throw took McKinney up the line a little bit, and she looked like she was a little bit late on the coverage, so that's something that you just can't afford against a team like this. You can't give them extra opportunities, and that's just a tough play for Wichita State.
Oklahoma now leading this one 5-0. Donahue over at third base on that play. Jennings, the freshman, stepping in. She is 1 for 2 today. You can see her just sticking the bat out there to get a foul ball off of that one. So Lang ahead in the count here against the dangerous Jennings, 0-2.
Something that Patty Gasso said about Jennings is just praising her blue-collar work ethic and how effortless she is in her game and how pretty she is to watch.
She lines this one past the glove of Sydney McKinney out to the outfield. Donahue comes in to score, and Jennings on a horse all the way out to second base, a stand-up double for the Sooners.
That ball was hit really hard. You can tell right here, McKinney barely has time to get her glove down, and that was practically hit right at her, so that ball was scorched. Easy stand-up double.
The 14th double of the season for Jennings. Again, just a freshman this year. Leads this Sooner lineup not only in the lineup, but also in the doubles category now at 14 on the season. That brings in Jocelyn Allo, who is 0 for 2 today. Last at bat in the second inning, she struck out. So been quiet tonight against Bailey Lang. You would say somebody with the batting average as high as Allo's that she is definitely due here in her third plate appearance of the night.
Absolutely. She's been a little bit off balance with Lang mixing in some change-ups, and it'll be interesting to see how she adjusts. And that is one long strike right there.
Looks like that adjustment was made there. Not fooled on that pitch. But for Bailey Lang, good news because she's now ahead in the count 0-2.
Here's a situation where you just want to make sure that she's going to hit your pitch. It's going to be a couple pitches and a couple balls before I give her anything good to hit.
Again, Allo a .496 batting average on the season. 0 for 2 tonight. Standing in now with a 1-2 count and only one out. Sends this one on the ground, but foul.
Everybody clap your hands. Clap your hands.
The Sooners have actually scored 20 runs or more 5 times this season. So they score runs, as you mentioned earlier, and that's just one of those things Wichita State knew was going to come into this game. And that's a nice grab from Riley Buck to save one of them. You can see that reaction time down at third base from the senior.
Yeah, Lang gets Allo to hit this ball right off the end of the bat, and no hesitation by Buck at third, reaching across her body. She It's a great snag.
Huge save for Wichita State. Even though they're down 6-0, that ball easily would have scored. Jennings from second base, a very hard hit from the bat of Allo, who now is 0 for 3 though against Lang tonight.
Yeah, we weren't expecting to see that, so Lang really bearing down on some of these big hitters.
Ground ball over to Sydney McKinney, and that's going to make out number 3. So OU now leading 6-0 going into the bottom of the 4th. Wichita State looking to respond right after this inning. Wichita State sending up freshman Addison Barnard to get things going. Not a bad place to be in your lineup, though. Addie Barnard, second in the lineup for Wichita State, but leading in home runs and several other categories offensively, having a fantastic freshman outing for Wichita State. You know, we're heading into this is the last game of the regular season for Wichita State. They are hoping and very likely looking at postseason play. So Addie Barnard getting hot and staying hot at the right time of the season for this lineup.
And I think to me what's so impressive about her is normally you see at some point a freshman's going to go through a slump because those scouting reports get out and maybe there's some holes in your swing that you haven't quite had time to work through, but you really haven't seen that out of Barnard. She stayed consistent and just on fire this whole season.
Now behind in the count, though, to Sale, who has given up just 1 hit to this explosive offense of Wichita State. Doing a fantastic job out on the mound. She's not the freshest pitcher, actually, that the Sooners have. She just pitched their last game, and that was on Tuesday against Baylor in Big 12 play. Only 6 innings that they played that day, but she pitched 5 of them before coming out and having someone come in relief, a freshman May, to finish things off.
And the Sooners actually had the weekend off, which is pretty rare for this time of year, but I'm sure much needed for these student athletes. This part of the season is quite a grind when you're finishing up the school year. Lots of schoolwork starts to pile up and the stress of a full season of heavy travel. So to have the opportunity to get to stay home, get caught up on some of that stuff, and then step out fresh can definitely be a big advantage.
2-2 count now on Addison Barnard. Addie Barnard is 0 for 1 on the night. Was out back in the first, just in her second at bat of the night. And she scorches that one down the third base line. Watch out.
That took out a camera right there.
Be an expensive foul ball.
And I think one of the things that makes Barnard so successful is how quick her hands are, and you could see it right there on display. She has, as Chrissy Redberry said, one of the fastest hands of anybody that she's ever coached. And as a hitter, that just gives you the ability to see the ball deep and have more time to make decisions. You can adjust to pitches later in the zone. You get to track movement later. And not to mention, it just gives you more power. So lots of positives from the fast hands of Addison Barnard.
Keep an eye on May 13th. The list for the finalists in the Freshman of the Year will be broken down to just 10. So there's 30 in it now. We've got 3 of them on the field right now, Addison Barnard, and then 2 players, Tiare Jennings and Jada Coleman from Oklahoma. That list being trimmed again down to the top 10 on May 13th. So we'll be excited to see how many of these players remain on it.
If you talk to Barnard, she's not going to be talking about those. She's a really humble kid that doesn't really pay attention to a lot of the accolades that she's racked up this season. She's a good team player that is just looking to figure out how she can help her team win. That's the kind of kid that you want on your team.
And that pitch misses. So Addie Barnard down to first base with the walk. The second walk of the night from Sale. Wichita State has had 3 base runners, 1 hit back in the first inning, or the second inning, excuse me, but then now you're getting a peek at just the 3rd base runner of the game. and that's Addison Barnard over at first base.
This is going to be a huge inning for Wichita State. They really need to capitalize on that break that they just got and try to find a way to manufacture some runs here.
Madison Paragon stepping up to the plate, 0 for 1 on the night. She flew out to center field in her first at bat back in the first inning. Again, another conversation between pitcher and catcher. That's Elam and Sale.
With Paragon being an Oklahoma native, you know this game just means a little bit more. And it already means a lot. With this being her last game at Wilkins and being a really important factor for this Wichita State program.
That ball is hit hard out to left field, but underneath it is the left fielder for the Sooners. That's Donahue making the out. Madison Paragon goes into the dugout, 1 out after a nice little piece of hitting there.
Yeah, that she put a good swing on that, but that's that curveball that we're talking about that just tailed away from Paragon enough for it to cut off the end of the bat. If that stays straight, that goes right off the barrel, and that might be out of the ballpark. But that really good spin by Sale gets it out just enough to keep that ball in the park.
So now with 1 out, Neely Herring stepping to the plate. She's got the lone hit for the Shockers tonight. Had a ball hit down the first base side between the first and second baseman out to the outfield earlier today.
Interesting fact about Neely Herring and Shannon Sale is they are actually teammates. Were teammates last summer in the Florida Gulf Coast League. So this was a league put together of current college players to get to hone their skills in the summer.
So not only the Oklahoma tie, Neely Herring hailing from the state of Oklahoma, but also the tie with Sale having been teammates before tonight.
And that's a new league. It's just a great way for some of these college players to keep their skills honed. There's usually not an opportunity for these players to play during the summer, which is a little bit different in college baseball. There's a lot of opportunities. So once they kind of age out of the 18 and under category, usually they're just taking the summer off and they're having to work on their own. For there to be an option for them to get together and play against really good competition, it's obviously going to elevate the game all around.
Associate head coach Jennifer Rocha out to the mound to have a discussion with her pitcher. Just looking to see if they can maybe reset here. Obviously Oklahoma doing a nice job keeping the Shockers off balance. But they are looking to strike here. Wichita State with a runner on. Neely Herring up to the plate. Again, somebody who has been doing a phenomenal job at the plate. And ironically, it's been against those Oklahoma teams. She had a great outing against Oklahoma State earlier this year, a great outing in Tulsa just last weekend, and now the only hit against the Oklahoma Sooners tonight.
Yeah, and the funny thing about that is she was slumping pretty hard before that Oklahoma State game, going just 1 for 21 prior to that. But she made an adjustment in her swing. She actually went to a split grip to try to help give her a little bit more barrel control. She's a natural righty thrower, but a lefty hitter. So sometimes that left hand, being the top hand, can get a little lazy through the swing. So giving her that split grip gives her a little bit more control of that left hand.
And instead of needing control of the bat, she needed control of the strike zone, and she had it. Good eye from Neely Herring, picking up the walk. Just her 28th walk of the season, so she actually leads this lineup in walks. Doing a good job picking it up at the right time. Only 1 out. Wichita State really looking to strike with runners on first and second. Bailey Nickerson stepping up to the plate. She hit into a double play back in the second, so she's looking to strike back here. The senior, again in her last game at Wilkins. Coming up against Sale. Again, runners on first and second and 1 out. Pops this one up, but it's in foul territory. Now behind 0-2.
The last at bat, you know, Nickerson's wanting a chance to redeem herself here. She's got the power potential for power with 6 home runs on the season. And now would be as good a time as any for one.
We talked about Wichita State. They're going to have their bye weekend this weekend in the American Athletic Conference Tournament. Every team in that conference experiences a bye weekend, and Wichita State's just happens to be the last weekend of the conference series options. So they'll have next weekend off, but I'm sure they won't take it off. They'll be practicing and doing what they can do to prepare for the conference tournament in Tulsa. That one's a strike 3 in the dirt. The throw down to second base with a big lead for Madison Barnard, but she's safe. So Sale really bouncing back after giving up 2 walks. She now has 2 outs, and Riley Buck up to the plate.
And that was a big strikeout for Sale right there. Not wasting any time, going right after Nickerson. I imagine the Shockers are going to be tuning in to the South Florida series this weekend. They're sitting second in the conference and are going to need South Florida to drop a couple games to give them a chance to take the conference championship. It's really tough as an athlete when you don't have the control and somebody else's, your fate is in somebody else's hands. So it's probably going to be a pretty tough weekend for them to sit by.
South Florida is the only conference series that Wichita State dropped this year. They hosted the Bulls here in Wichita and lost 3 out of 4. And South Florida heading to play Central Florida, another great team in the conference, coming up next weekend. Riley Buck with the ground ball to second base. That's out number 3. The Shockers were looking to offensively strike, but go down still with nothing on the board. 6-0 Oklahoma. And with that, you'll see a new pitcher for Wichita State. That is Erin McDonald coming in here in the top of the 5th. Bailey Lang out for Wichita State. She had 4 innings pitched, 7 hits, 6 runs, 5 of those earned. When you look at a team like Oklahoma and you give up 6 runs to them, you're in the majority when it comes to pitchers this year. OU truly a phenomenal offense, and Bailey Lang doing a nice job tonight in her outing against them. Erin McDonald coming in relief.
Absolutely. I don't think Lang did a bad job at all. She really did not give up many hard hit balls. But I think it's a good decision here to give the Sooners a different look and not give them the opportunity to get on Lang.
Grace Lyons sends this one out to the outfield, and a double to lead things off of Erin McDonald here in the top of the 5th.
And they're wasting no time getting right on Erin McDonald. It's a nice job of just turning on an inside pitch, barreling it up, sneaks in there, fair territory for an easy double.
Lyons staying hot, 3 for 3 tonight against the Wichita State pitching staff. Makes sense that she's in that 4 hole here for the Sooners. Erin McDonald on the year, a 3.28 ERA. She's 9-1 on the season, though. 68 innings pitched. Got a lot of movement for Wichita State, and as you mentioned, Nicole, someone who's going to provide a different look than the lefty Bailey Lang.
Yeah, she's going to throw a little bit slower, but kind of have the same look as Bailey Lang. She's got a fast change and a rise. But she does a really good job of just spinning the ball hard, and it's gonna move and dance around the zone a little bit.
Jada Coleman in now, behind 0-2. Swings at this one, sends it down to Cameron Compton over at first base, makes a nice play by herself, and then throws it over to Riley Buck to attempt to get Lyons, who is there safely at third base.
Yeah, that was a hard hit ball. Just barely gets under the glove over there at Compton, and I think Lyons is happy that that happened to hit the dirt. She had a pretty aggressive lead off of second base and was able to get to third.
Now a conversation between home plate umpire Brian Miller and Patty Gasso. Looks like a pinch hitter might be coming in. That's going to be number 0, Riley Boone, the sophomore. She's going to be hitting for Lindsay Elam. Coming in on that left side. Boone has a .366 batting average on the year. Only 41 at-bats, but 15 hits in her chances at the plate as a Sooner.
Boone has good speed. She's a base-stealing threat. The infield's going to have their work cut out for them right here.
That might be a discussion worth having here. As you can tell, the Shockers got together as they saw the change happen. Again, Boone in for Elam. Mendez waiting on deck. And over at third base still is Grace Lyons with only 1 out. McDonald with the strike.
You can see Kaylee Hecker at second base. She's playing in the baseline.
And that one's going to sneak under her glove and send Boone down to first base. A nice piece of pinch hitting as she comes up with an RBI. Lyons coming across home plate for the 7th run of the game for the Sooners.
That was a well-placed hit, and like I said, you can see Kaylee Hecker's up in that baseline, and because of that, she didn't have as much range as normal to get to that ball. Doesn't have to be hit hard to score that runner from third, though.
Mendez up to the plate now. She had a double back in the 4th, a walk in the 2nd, so she's 1 for 1 tonight with Boone over at first. That one in up and tight from the arm of McDonald, who happens to be from Norman, Oklahoma. She attended Norman High School and then attended Louisiana Tech before transferring to Wichita State and becoming really a highlight for this pitching staff and doing a lot of innings pitched along with Caitlin Bingham and Bailey Lang, as you saw earlier tonight.
Yeah, McDonald has done a really nice job this season, and she has the ability to just come into games and take some of the innings off of the other pitchers, and that's what really managing a staff of 3 talented pitchers that they have, and being able to go deep into the season. A lot of times you get that ace and you're just going to ride them until basically their arm's going to fall off by the time you get to postseason. And so to be able to balance a staff so that you have multiple arms that are fresh when you get to the end of the season is really what it takes to win championships now. And you can see that with the Sooners too. We talked to Patty Gasso, and she has a staff of 7 pitchers this year, which is a luxury that she hasn't always had in the past. So it's nice, but it's also a challenge too to make sure that you're letting everybody get some innings and keeping a staff of that size happy.
This one's in foul or fair territory, but the umpire is going to call her back, saying it's in fact foul. May have hit her in the box or the bat in the box. So Mendez is going to make her way back to home plate, but not without questions from Patty Gasso.
Squares around for the drag bunt here, and it looks like it just got her front foot. It's a good call by the home plate umpire.
Really is. That's a really tough thing to see in fast motion. We have the luxury of our crew doing such a great job here tonight to be able to show us a replay where in slow motion we can tell from the comfort of our seats here that it was in fact a foul ball, but a very tough call for home plate Brian Miller. And Mendez strikes out swinging, a big out for Erin McDonald, sending her over to the dugout for out number 2.
It's a nice pitch, a nice job by Erin McDonald going in and coming in and getting the strikeout.
Hey, keep working it, keep working.
So now stepping in is Mackenzie Donahue. No, excuse me, Gianna Johns is stepping in. now in the 8-hole spot for the Sooners. Johns walked back in the second. The ground ball to second base in the fourth, so she is 0 for 1 tonight. And now looks at a 2-0 count, hitter's pitch from McDonald.
We've obviously seen and we've talked about how potent the Sooner offense is. But I think that just throughout the whole country, with last season getting canceled and with everything that's happened with COVID, is that the level of play around the country has just been elevated. Just from the softball that I've been able to watch this year, it is just really fun and exciting. It just looks like every single player is out there playing for a little bit more this year. And I think when you've had something, you've had your kind of dream just ripped out of your hands at the drop of the hat like they were last year, it's going to be a really, really fun postseason.
Couldn't agree more. You look at the depth of these teams that were able to bring back freshmen, or the senior classes, and have them play with the freshmen who were recruited in that they were never meant to play with. These combinations were so unexpected for these head coaches that it's really turning into a magical season for several teams. That's a close one, but it's going to be ball 4 to Jana Johns, who takes her base down to first. Still 2 outs for Wichita State, and again, now we're going to see Mackenzie Donahue, the 9-hole in this lineup, who's had a pretty good night. 2 RBIs back in the second, and a walk in the fourth, so she is definitely seeing the ball well off the arms of this Wichita State staff, stepping in now with 2 outs. Wichita State's had a couple heartbreaking ends to their seasons. In 2019, saw it end by rain out in a conference tournament where they didn't have a high enough RPI to get an at-large bid, so they were sent home, even on a win in their conference tournament due to rain. That's going to be a hit. Donahue sends it out to left field, and Urban sends it in. Boone in safely with her speed, and down to third base. You're going to see Jana Johns in safely. Donahue down to second with the double. 8-0 Sooners.
Yeah, this nice job just turning on that pitch, and you can see Boone peek as she's coming around to third just to see where that positioning is by Urban out in left, and she knows she's got enough time to get in there.
So Donahue stays hot here for the Oklahoma Sooners, really doing a lot of damage on the plate. Now having 3 RBIs of the 8 runs of the night in just the 9-hole hitter for the Sooners. So a fantastic stat to have at the bottom of your lineup. And that brings up the very dangerous Tiare Jennings. She's got a couple RBIs as well. She is 2 for 3 on the night. Very, very close spot for Erin McDonald. Again, a tight strike zone is going to make it really tough against some dangerous hitters that we see in this lineup tonight.
Yeah, you can see Paragon behind the plate motioning to the dugout. That was just a little bit too low.
McDonald finds it there. Now evens the count at 1-1.
And against a lineup like that, it's just a tough spot to be in as a pitcher, because you're doing everything you can to paint a corner, to keep the ball right at the knees, when you've got to bring it into the zone so that you don't fall behind.
And that one's at the knees, sent out to the outfield. Center field's Bailey Nickerson sending this one in, and that's after 2 runs will score for the Oklahoma Sooners on the base hit from Jennings.
Nice job by Jennings, taking this pitch that's outside and just going with it into the gap. And she puts her team well within the run rule limit here.
OU now leading this one 10-0 here in the top half of the 5th. The run rule stands in college softball 8 runs after 5 innings. So Wichita State's going to have an opportunity in the bottom half of this inning to make sure it doesn't end early. But as we mentioned at the beginning of the broadcast, Oklahoma has run-rolled 30 of their 40 opponents so far this year, so a 75% chance when you play them that may just happen. So here we stand at a 10-run lead. Jocelyn Allo standing in 0 for 3 on the night. Very uncommon for Jocelyn Allo, who came into this game with the highest batting average for the Sooner lineup.
And I think you just make the argument, like, how good is this Oklahoma team? Is this one of the best teams that we've ever seen in college softball history? I think it's very possible because even though their play tonight hasn't been super flashy, they just casually put 10 runs on the board before you know it. And it hasn't been with the long ball. It's just been by, taking bases when they can, being smart on the base paths, and just getting some base hits.
Lots of people came out tonight to answer that question for themselves, Nicole, and that's, is this the best team that we've seen in college softball? Wichita fans came out to watch. You've got party decks out in center field where at least 30 to 40 fans have taken advantage of new seats just for today to see if this team is as good as they look on paper. And so far, so good, as Allo gets on base for the first time tonight with a free pass.
And I think the question that I had for the Sooners was, were they going to take Wichita State lightly? They've got a huge Bedlam series this weekend in Stillwater where the conference championship's on the line. I think it'd be really easy to just overlook Wichita State and get a little too hyped for the weekend. But I think that's what makes them so good. And you've got really great experience on that team where they just come in and say, no, we're just going to take care of business and take it one game at a time. And when we talked to Coach Gasso, she says that they never overlook Wichita State, that they prepare for them because they do have a history of playing each other quite a bit, but she prepares for them like they are a Big 12 opponent. I think, to quote, she respects the heck out of Wichita State, as she told us, because they have given them a run for their money multiple times over the years. So I just think that really is a testament to how focused and disciplined this Oklahoma team is.
We're going to see a pinch hitter here for Kinsey Hansen. That's number 5, Talon Snow, a senior. Stepping into the plate. She's just got 94 at-bats on the year, but 34 hits in that time. So you got to look at this Oklahoma lineup and assume that whether she started or not, she's probably a fantastic hitter. You only have so many spots in a lineup, but when you look at that dugout, I assume many of them could be starters with the stats they've put up in their opportunities at the plate and out on the field.
And when you have that much depth, it just makes you that much better because it's a constant push to see who's going to get playing time. And I know Coach Gasso talked to us about that, and she said, you have the choice to go in and get extra work because if you don't, there's going to be somebody behind you that is, and that's kind of fighting for your spot. And they've done a nice job of not getting competitive to the point that it's toxic and hurts their team chemistry, but they all just show up with a personal responsibility and know that they're there to make each other better. And if somebody's going to let up, there's going to be 3 or 4 more people right behind them biting or chomping at the bit to get that opportunity.
2-2 count now to Snow in her first at-bat of the night. McDonald looking to shut this inning down. Oklahoma has put 4 runs on the board in the top half of this inning, now leading this one 10-0. And Snow runs this one to a full count. 3-2 count now, 2 outs, runners on first and second. McDonald just in her first half inning of work here tonight, coming in on relief for Bailey Lang. Sends that one inside, but it misses. Snow down to first base with the walk.
Hey, you got it, Nines! You got it!
And that's going to bring in another pinch hitter. This time it's going to be number 21, Grace Green, instead of Grace Lyons, who was hot tonight, 3 for 3 against Wichita State. But Patty Gasso looking to send some subs in and get them opportunities. As you mentioned, Nicole, they're a stacked team. They've got a lot of depth. These players are going to be expected to be ready in any type of game. You can be up 10-0, or you could be at the College World Series down 1-0. And it's really important that they're able to see live at bats and do what they can do when given an opportunity from Gasso.
Yeah, and when you're run rolling 30 out of your 40 games, you don't you're down quite a few innings, so you don't have as many opportunities to get people in. So you've got to make the most of it.
Green has a .372 batting average, has been at the plate 43 times. This will be number 44 tonight. 16 hits, 3 doubles, and 3 home runs. Not bad for a pinch hitter.
I think what we're seeing here is McDonald just trying to be a little bit too perfect, especially with a little bit tighter zone. She's kind of fallen behind on the last couple batters and gotten herself into a really tough situation.
The 2-0 count is sent out to the outfield. You're going to see it leave the park. The first home run of the night. A pinch hitter coming in for the Sooners. And again, that's Grace Green rounding the bases.
Nice job by Grace Green. Making the most of that opportunity. Not your everyday starter, but coming in and being ready to hit. It's a great swing and a lot of power behind that ball. And we were talking about Erin McDonald falling behind, and that's what happens. If you try to be too perfect early in the count, you find yourself in a really tough spot where you've got to give them something good to hit, and that's what happened. And Grace Green absolutely capitalizing and making the most of that pitch.
Green stepping in as a pinch hitter made that look like she's been hitting all night. No question that ball left the park in a hurry. Oklahoma fans, staff, student athletes all knew off the bat that that was gone. Now leading this one 14-0 against Wichita State.
And again, I think if you're Wichita State, the scoreboard obviously does not reflect how you should walk away from this game feeling. I think you just know that you're in good company. They've been doing this to really good teams all year long. And so I think it's really important for them to kind of let this game roll off their back. They knew going in that all the pressure was on Oklahoma. They were definitely the underdog.
Zeta Pooney's going to send this one out to the outfield. Addison Barnard off the wall, sends it over to second base, but it's not in time. She's going to be in with a diving double. Again, Zeta Pooney coming in as a freshman for Jada Coleman.
Yeah, that's just a nice piece of hitting right there, going with the outside, nice little dive into second base for the freshman.
With Green's home run, they have now tied the program record at OU with 115 home runs in a season. That was back in 2019 that they did that. And tonight they have tied that record yet again in 2021. Not surprising with the amount of offense that they've produced this year, that they too are breaking their own records in the offensive categories. Boone stepping in again for the second time tonight, falling behind 0-2.
I have a feeling that is not going to be the last home run that we see from OU. We'll be setting a new record for future teams to try to compete with.
And that's a strikeout, Erin McDonald. Wichita State's going to come into this one trying to make it not a run roll. It's 14-0 lead for Oklahoma. Shockers coming up after this. Game before this one tonight, and that was against Baylor. So Sale and May looking to do the same thing they did to Baylor, and that's finish up a run roll. Another victory for the Sooners.
Got a freshman matchup here with Cameron Compton.
May is 11-1 on the season, a 1.64 ERA. Not bad for a freshman outing so far. 63 strikeouts in her time out on the mound. Cameron Compton just in her second at bat of the night. She recorded an out back in the third, so 0 for 1. 230 batting average. 61 at bats with 14 hits on the season.
And I think when you're looking at this Oklahoma team, it's pretty incredible how many freshmen have had such a large impact on their season. And Nicole May, even though she's third in innings pitched on the team, is still shouldered quite a bit of the load.
Oh no! Not you, kid! Good
Full
catch.
count now for Cameron Compton. And she fouls that one back. So Wichita State has their work cut out for them. Again, the run rule is 8 runs after 5. So Oklahoma with 14 now. Wichita State's got to make that margin a lot smaller, having only 1 hit though tonight.
And that's a good start right there. I think for Wichita State here, you're just trying to get some base runners and doing whatever you can to extend this game. Yeah, you're not gonna cut into a 14-run deficit very quickly, but if you can just, take it a couple base runners at a time and try to get to that 6th inning and give yourself a little bit more of a chance to come back. I mean, I think this team's got a lot of fight, and you're not going to see them go down easy.
May misses again. It's a ball outside to Kaylee Hecker, who actually walked her last time at the plate back in the third. So although Wichita State's only had 1 hit, they've had a really good eye at the plate. 4 walks on the night from the Oklahoma Sooners pitching staff. That one is fouled off straight back. So 1-1 count for Kaylee Hecker with Cameron Compton standing at first base. Wichita State looking to chip their way back into this one.
And you may think, what's the big deal here? Just lay down and walk away and get out of this game. But these are 2 teams that could potentially match up in postseason. And I think if you're Wichita State, you want to get every single pitch that you can against Oklahoma. Every little bit of information and every opportunity you can to get something that might help you later on. No, you are in a pretty big deficit here. You can still say, how am I going to get better from this experience, and how can we use it to later on to our advantage?
That ball is sent straight up into the air. Catcher is underneath it and makes the play. That's number 1, Kinsey Koltzow. She came in for the catcher, Lindsey Elam, behind the plate. Makes a nice grab for the Sooners for out number 1. Bailey Urbahn stepping in now. 0 for 1 on the night, but has her freshman counterpart, as she is a freshman to herself, over at first base, Cameron Compton.
Urbahn, a really aggressive swinger. She just swings hard. And she's one of those hitters that she's not going to get cheated.
That one out of the zone. 2-0 count now to Urbahn. You mentioned this, Nicole, earlier on how Wichita State's not just going to roll over. They're one of those teams that they're true fighters. You're playing against the number 1 team in the country. Wichita State was actually picked to finish 5th in the league's coaching preseason polls for the American Athletic Conference, and they currently sit in 2nd and could actually finish in 1st, as we talked about earlier, based on the South Florida Central Florida series coming up this weekend. So they're one of those teams that has had a phenomenal season and really kind of an unexpected season, just in terms of what happened last year in the short season of 2020 and what happened in 2019, again, when their season was cut short just due to the rain out of the conference tournament.
Yeah, they've come out in this 2021 season just guns a-blazing. You can tell it's kind of led by their seniors who um, have had lofty goals for their entire career and have wanted to take this program to a new height. And they've put themselves in a really good position for that. Being ranked for the first time in school history, you know that's a big deal for them. But you just get the sense that they're not done yet. They are hungry for more, and I think they're really excited to see how far and how deep they can go in this postseason.
The 3-2 pitch is low. Bailey Urbon down to first base. The 5th walk for the Oklahoma Sooners pitching staff on the night. And that's going to give us runners at first and second. And back to the top of the lineup, the dangerous Sydney McKinney for the Shockers.
Very uncharacteristic for the Sooners to have this many walks in a game. I think that's just a testament to how tuned in these Shocker hitters' eyes are.
Sydney McKinney's 0 for 2 on the night. Takes that changeup off the arm of May. McKinney's putting the ball in play, but just hasn't gotten on base just yet. She's definitely the player in the lineup that you would say is due, just based on her consistency in her role. Sends this one out to the outfield, but it's going to be completely out of play. 0-2 count now.
We talked about at the beginning of the game that if you want the chance to shut down the Shocker offense, it starts with keeping McKinney off the base paths, and Oklahoma has done a really nice job of that tonight.
The 0-2 pitch is low. So Sydney McKinney, the sophomore from Missouri, stepping in now, again in her 3rd at bat of the night, with 2 freshmen on base, Bailey Urbon and Cameron Compton, chomping at the bit to come around to score.
When McKinney's at the plate, she's just a competitor. She's going to foul off pitches and just work really, really hard to find a way to get on base. And she's got a calm demeanor about her, but you can just tell that she doesn't take any pitches off.
Sends this one out to the outfield. Donahue under it for out number 2. So a nice at bat for Sydney McKinney, but retired for the 3rd time tonight, and that's going to send Patty Gasso out to the plate as Addison Barnard steps up.
So I think if you're Wichita State, like we said before, you take what you can out of this experience and kind of pack it away for a potential meeting in the postseason. But you definitely don't let it squash the momentum that you have. They had a really good weekend last weekend to finish up conference play, and they're going to go into the conference tournament with a lot of time to prepare with them having the weekend off. So I think it's really going to come down to those seniors talking to some of the younger players on the team and just being like, nothing hurt here. You know, they're the #1 team in the country for a reason. So I think the worst thing that you could do is overanalyze this game. You just kind of move on, take what you can, and be better tomorrow.
You always hope for that underdog story. You know, you look at this, you know, no matter what. I mean, obviously you're an Oklahoma fan. You say, we don't want that underdog story. But, you know, if you're just tuning in, you're a Wichita State fan, or you're just unbiased in general, it would have been really cool to see something like that happen tonight. But the expectation was what we see now, and that's Oklahoma winning this game. That was the expectation coming into it. But, you know, Wichita State, as you mentioned, both of these teams have a lot more season to go, both of which not only playing one more series for Oklahoma with Oklahoma State coming up, but then also their conference tournaments as well. Addison Barnard sends this one out to the outfield in the gap. Coming around to score is Cameron Compton. Addie Barnard in with a double. The freshman staying hot at the plate.
And that's what you love to see out of the best hitter of your team right there. And that sends a message is, don't count us out. Yeah, we may be down, but we're definitely not out. And she just smokes that ball into the gap right off the fence and gives them a little bit more hope.
Madison Barnard, the freshman, standing up over at second base. A nice piece of hitting. Just the second hit of the night for Wichita State. Brings up to the plate Madison Peregrine, the senior, with 2 outs here. Runners at second and third. Wichita State still looking to strike.
Absolutely. And you know Butters was just on deck over there, just fingers crossed hoping for one more at-bat on this field.
One count now. Again, that's Nicole May, a freshman who came in just this bottom half of the inning in relief for Shannon Sale, who started the game for the Sooners. Here comes her 25th pitch of the night.
I think it's a really good opportunity for May to be in a little bit of trouble here and have this opportunity to work some things out. Like we said, hasn't had as many opportunities as Sale and Juarez, but this is a good opportunity for when she may have to come in later in postseason.
Madison Peregrine ahead, 3-1 count now to the senior. Again in her, what might be her final at bat at Wilkins Stadium. And against a team that she grew up, I'm sure, watching, as she is an Oklahoma native. Now a 3-1 count and 2 outs. And she's walked. So a team that we talked about at the beginning of tonight, Oklahoma only averaging less than 2 walks a game, has now registered 5 walks between 2 pitchers. And the bases are juiced for none other than Neely Herring, who has just been a phenomenal hitter, just really over her career, but really specifically just within her last few at-bats, all against Oklahoma teams.
Yeah, I think right now, if you're Wichita State, this is who you want to see up at the plate. She's had some big hits, and she's really been on fire lately.
Neely had the only hit before this inning. That was back in the second, and then was walked in the fourth. Comes in swinging out of her shoes on the first pitch she sees against May.
I think she was trying to hit that over to the baseball stadium. But you gotta love it. I think in this situation, go big or go home. Don't get cheated here.
And with that, she's down the count. 0-2 is Herring again. Wichita State down 14-1 to the #1 team, Oklahoma Sooners. Looking to shut this one down early in 5 innings. And she grounds this one to shortstop. The play over to first, and it's going to be a error, a throw over to the Shocker dugout. Now we're in a rundown. Madison Peregrine gets tagged for out number 3. That's going to finish things up here in Wichita, but Wichita State striking 14-3 will be the final now, as Oklahoma finishes up their 31st run rule of the season here in Wichita, Kansas.
Yeah, we're not too surprised by this outcome. I mean, Oklahoma is just a very, very potent offense, and they're doing just what they do best, and that's putting runs up on the board.